Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Yele. Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, that was really, really exciting and also enlightening. I was really impressed. But I didn't really put these numbers together when you were talking about, you know, the number of people that have just above $1,000 in their bank accounts in Nigeria. And of course, we are both Nigerians. And I'm like, that makes sense, you know, and you're looking at the Axie community. It means actually that majority of the Axie community, most players, say, for example, people who have been playing for, let's say, the past 6 months or something, are mostly wealthier than, you know, over the let's say middle class or something in Nigeria. And it's insane, you know.
They're wealthier than 99.95%. In fact, 99.99995% of Nigerians. That's crazy.
That's crazy. And you know, when you, and something else you just said before you ended your presentation, which is more like, okay, the more money you're able to make for people, right, the more advocates they are of your project. I think that's very true, because when you look at a project like Axie, I remember when Yele told me about Axie the first time. I mean, I think that was like 4 months ago. So I was in the US then. Yele picked me. I was like, hey, Ugo, what's up? Have you heard of this game, Axie? And I'm like, which one is Axie again? Right? You know, but when I checked, then I just put it, I saw crazy content out there, and I was like, what's going on? Like, you know, who are these guys? What are they doing? How I knew that these guys had gone really far was 2 days ago. I saw them on Bloomberg, and I was like, no way. Like, it wasn't a content made by Axie. It was something that Bloomberg made, right? And talking to different players on that play Axie and everything. I was like, this is really good. And you know, building a community, you know, from gaming for me is super exciting, because I don't know any young person that, maybe someone who is, let's say, about 35 or 40 now, who didn't play games, or who maybe was not sort of exposed to playing games when they were younger. You know, yeah, so I think that going at that level really helped to build a lot of adoption in the blockchain and the crypto space. I mean, it was really, really great and you know, enlightening session. So we have just a few questions. I shared one. One says, currently, the current play to earn game titles have quite similar game modes. Most are card games, animal fights. So is the limitation of blockchain technology that makes games like shooting, hardcore games not built on blockchain? I have not seen any hardcore game that is GameFi. This was asked by Chin
yeah.
on his Telegram.
Yeah. So I mean, I think like it's, give it time, right? We're definitely going to see games like that coming out soon. Like I said earlier, it's really more about the difficulty of like putting the game together. But when you think about sort of, you know, the way, you know, blockchain gaming works, it's not as if the game is on the blockchain, right? It's the in-game assets that are on the blockchain, right? And so there's not a lot of computation going on the blockchain itself, unless you want to move the in-game assets from account A to account B, right? So it's definitely not about like the blockchain. And again, you know, if you look at, I think right now you have like Ronin, who are definitely building out like a side chain that we focused on gaming, since that's what Axie uses. There's also the Flow blockchain, which is by Dapper Labs, the guys behind kind of like the original crypto, one of the original crypto games, the Crypto Kitties, and there's Immutable as well, right? So I think the technology layer for crypto gaming is actually sufficient enough for us to have more diverse games. The problem is just that people need to be creative and think beyond saying, okay, building similar games to Axie, right? So I think that's going to change. But the one thing I know that's going to be quite different is, you know, PvP in crypto gaming is going to be so important, because that is the one thing that allows you, even think about sort of like multiplayer games, right? Multiplayer games will work because it's PvP, right? It's not really about the games, the game designers kind of creating new worlds or new experiences, because it takes a lot to keep coming up with like new things yourself, right? So you need to design games that allow other players to play against each other. And, you know, it's simple at the base layer, but over time, there is some element of like skill and mastery that allows you to differentiate between the very best players and not so great players.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, the second question says, it can be seen that 2021 is a year with the strong development of GameFi. Now there are many games born. So what are the challenges GameFi is facing, and do we need it?
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge is just that building a successful kind of GameFi project, it requires a set of skills that a lot of people in crypto are not quite so strong at, right? So if you are good at building games, you probably are not great at building sort of crypto projects and communities, right? So, we've seen some really interesting, like nice looking games, but it's so clear that they don't really understand sort of the community-centric mindset of crypto projects, and that's was missing. And then there are folks that understand the community layer to be a successful GameFi project, but are not necessarily great at building games. Over time, we're going to see these two types or sets of founders or builders coalesce, right? Where they realize that we both need each other, and the quality of the games are only going to get better. So I think that is probably the biggest challenge. But over time, I think that's a problem that I've solved.
Okay, great. I think for someone saying hardcore games, I think you should look at Star Atlas. They're coming up, so it seems to be something that's going to be really hardcore, but yeah, still in development. The third question says, how does GameFi attract more players from the traditional game market? And says currently most of the play-to-earn game players are people who want to make money, who understand crypto. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that, I don't know if that is 100% correct, right? If you look at some of the more popular games, a lot of people, there's a video on YouTube that one of the first videos I watched on Axie, where they showed like a granddad, or a very elderly gentleman in the Philippines playing Axie because his shop was shut down during the COVID pandemic, right? So, when you think about it that way, like that shows you sort of like how diverse this thing can be, right? And a lot of people learn what they need to learn about like blockchain and crypto because they know that this is a viable, economic opportunity. Like the minimum wage in Nigeria, I believe, is like 30,000 naira, right? That is less than $100 a month, right? So that is about, let's say, about $52, $53 a month.
Exactly, about $53. Yeah, exactly.
I'm surprised I got that math right. So $53 a month divided by 30, that's less than $2. And based off that, that's less than the official definition of what poverty is. So it's just, trust me, like as you build out these communities and guilds, community will educate like non-crypto folks. They will learn what they need to learn to get started, and people will actually build out things that abstract away layers of complexity around the blockchain elements.
Okay, the fourth one, before we go to the final one, says there are many GameFi projects being made every day. How do you judge what is a good project or what's a bad project?
Yeah, I think the things I mentioned earlier apply, both as a builder or as a potential participant in the game, right? I would always kind of like start with the team. If someone of the team has never built a game before, it's unlikely they're going to get it right, in my opinion. A lot of game developers have been developing games for a very long time, and they're very passionate about it. So, you want to look for someone that has experience sort of building games. Something I didn't mention in the past, which I think is also equally as important, is I do believe that you need to have like maybe not a mobile first approach, but you have to be more compatible, right? You have to be on Android, especially if you want to attract like folks from emerging markets, building and playing your game. Then community is very, very important. You look at the quality of the discourse on Discord, on Twitter, are folks making content. And is the game fun? Like, is the game fun? If the game is not fun, like, it's pretty much dead on arrival. Actually, unlike most, I believe that tokenomics can be fixed. And in my opinion, with tokenomics, look at what is already working and then make minor changes if you believe you'll do something differently. So for instance, what I discussed in terms of how I would think about driving the price of SLP through mints and sinks.
Okay, thanks. The last question says, currently NFT game projects only pay attention to finance, not user experience. What do you think should be done to improve this problem?
Say that again.
It says currently NFT game projects only pay attention to finance, not user experience. What do you think should be done to improve this problem?
So I think that is really just around sort of like the quality of the game developers. A lot of people have rushed to build games and launch low quality games and issue tokens and kind of capture value very quickly. And so that's why you sort of see that happen, right? But again, we are like, a genie has been let out of the lamp and can never go back. It's the same thing that happened with synthetics and compound. Once you have that, like that's just it. So it's going to be really, really interesting to watch how the space evolves. But I'm so like, I cannot understate how bullish I am. I think gaming and user generated content and sort of being able to earn from these two things are going to be the two biggest drivers for crypto adoption across the world over the next kind of 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, thanks, Yele. So one thing or a couple of things, when it comes to making these games really interesting and cool, I find it with the current design, right, that the games have now, unlike then when you had CryptoKitties, everything, the game logic was on the blockchain, right? Now there has been an abstraction, right? The game logic sits on normal computer servers, so it makes it much more fun, much more interesting. And most games being built now, right, are actually now built with very solid game engines, because at the time, most people had to make them, with just browser native language, maybe like JavaScript, because everything just had to sit within, the browser. Yes. But now they use native game engines, so it's something that that is making, the future of this really exciting. Like, in the crypto conference in Miami, I remember one guy came up to me. I was like, hey man, we were just some developers there. He came and said, hey, are we developers? Do we want to work for Star Atlas? And I was like, what's Star Atlas? So he told us, well, the best way to define it is that Star Atlas just made over $50 million in like 2 months. I was like, what? And he said that they're about to, from their NFT sales, and they're about to hire 50 developers. They're looking at hiring 50 developers, right? And their tech stack, for they use like Unreal Engine and some other like cool gaming platforms or game development engines. So that really shows you the amount of effort, the amount of money, the amount of time really being put into making these kind of games. And they won't just be boring games, they won't be boring at all. So I think it's something really great that the future is really exciting for gaming, and I mean, I'm also very happy that we have people like Yele also, trying to get a lot of people who are into gaming into the crypto space, and also, trying to build out some really cool things. And part of the hackathon, we even have like an idea on the hackathon that says, okay, how can you use create games, to improve, the DeFi experience, or to improve Xend Finance, just to make it much more interesting, or like making games, that will make people that people will love to play. Funny enough, today we got like an application. So we got like a DM on Telegram, and some guys, had they were working on a game, for the hackathon, and I was really excited about it. So I think it's something that a lot of us should look into, especially people from here, Nigeria, Africa. I mean, we just saw that the Axie community is richer than 99% of Nigerians. I mean, this should be a big push to encourage us to start building out things that will make people here, to start earning well. I really don't believe we have to wait for the government. We have to wait for, someone to come and increase your minimum wage, or wait for oil prices to go up. I strongly just feel that we have to now, define our own future the way we want it. And the good thing about the blockchain technology, is that it doesn't need, you don't need any permission from anybody. That's the great thing about it. Right? So as a young developer, or as someone who just wants to go into development, you can actually sit down, learn something, build it, and you already have people that are there to fund the project, people that are there to guide you, and you really don't need to have maybe some godfather in the space, where you see around here, like Yele said, just drop him a message on Twitter. You can even just go drop a message, say, oh, I'm looking for someone, this is my game. I want someone who can, help me out maybe with tokenomics. Just people will come and help you. That's the beautiful thing about the blockchain. And, everybody is really, it's actually a community. The blockchain is it's a huge community that you can easily access anyone at any time. So Yele, thank you very much for your time today. It was an exciting time. Yeah, I hope you guys also had a great time today. And yeah, thank you. And we hope to have you some other time in some other events. Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, guys.